Hey everyone, this is the Traveling Educator live from Emerald City, where we shine bright like diamonds. Today we will be discussing a very important matter, and that is the literacy rate amongst African American students in the Washington, D.C. area. We'll be discussing the issues, how this problem came to be, and what's the solutions that we may have. And I'll also be interviewing a former Teacher of the Year winner for Friendship Ideal, Brandon McCoy. So stay tuned. All right, guys, the Traveling Educator is back, and I'm with the man, the myth, the legend, Brandon McCoy.
How's it going?
All right. How's your day?
The day's great, man. It's Friday, so we're definitely looking for the weekend, but I'm doing well, man. Always doing well, brother, man.
How many years have you been an educator, especially teaching ELA?
For sure. That's a great question. I've been teaching this is my 14th year teaching. I began teaching high school for the first 4 years, and then for the last 10 years, I was been teaching middle school. So for the past, 7, 8 years, I've been teaching 6th and 7th grade English.
All right, so you know the crisis that the Washington, D.C. area is facing with the low literacy rates amongst African American students.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most urgent crisis you've seen in your career, where does the Black student literacy gap land for you?
I would say definitely towards the higher realm, probably like an 8 or 9, honestly. I'll say 9, right in between there. As I was teaching my students in the past, right before we go to testing, I'm very transparent with them, right? And I show them data from 2020 to 2025, the literacy rate for African American males especially, or in females. But right now, the literacy rate for African American males in the DC area, who gets like a 4+, which means they are higher or at or above grade level, that is 12%. So 12% of students who score a 4+ in ELA, which is detrimental, right? And so there's definitely a big crisis in that realm. We got to fix it.
In your honest opinion, what is the single biggest cause of the literacy gap in the Black community?
Yeah, not being able to read and write. And I believe it starts at home. And I always make this big point. It starts at home. And I think a lot of parents, a lot of societies, environments, communities are not well equipped or with the resources to better their student, better their child, right? And so I think one of the biggest causes of that is a lack of resources, not in the schools, because the schools they're given the resources, but a lack of resources at home. I think that hurts the child.
Yes, I totally agree. Education starts in the home. I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Because you said it's not the resources in the school, so we have the resources and have the tools, correct?
Yes, for sure.
So it's so we've been having a lot of talk about the science of reading now, like versus phonics, versus cueing methods. In your experience, how have Black students been disproportionately taught with methods we know don't work?
For sure, and that's a good question. It seems like a systematic cycling, right? I always teach that parents should teach their children to read. Parents should read to their child at a very young age, right? The fact that every single night, if data shows that parents are reading to their children every single night, holding conversations at the table, scholars are more applicable to be literate starting at a pre-K toddler age. So I think a lack of that is not knowing how to support their child, right? And so going back to the resources at home, parents also need to be educated on how best to support their child in reading, right? We're all automatically assuming that parents know, but some parents don't have the resources for that too, right? And so I think a lot of the phonics, as far as how to read, sounding alike, just reading to your child at home, that's a big disproportionality that I see a lot of children not getting.
And one thing I want to play devil's advocate for a second. One thing I've noticed within education, we've gone away from phonics.
Yes. Yep.
We've gone away from teaching phonics. Do you think that plays a big impact? Because you're saying sometimes at home, the parents are ill-equipped to actually, or they're not too sure on how to go about teaching phonics. But do you think as a school system, are we dropping the ball in that regard when it comes to phonics?
Yeah, I think in the early grades, they teach that quite a bit. And then once the third grade, fourth grade hits, there's a different curriculum, it's a different change. So if students in third and fourth grade don't know how to don't know how to read or are missing the foundations of reading, they're going to be ill-equipped to understand that, only because the curriculum changes. From kindergarten to third grade, students are taught the foundations. They're taught phonics, phonemic awareness, systematic syntax, right? They're taught those things. And so if they don't have that by third grade, when they're actually talking to how to analyze a text, how to read a text, and portionality, then if they don't know how to do it already, they're going to be disengaged, right? And so it's difficult for higher elementary and middle school teachers to teach foundations when the curriculum has already changed. And then there's obviously resources are given, but you're always going back at a different rate. You're trying to go back and feed that in there, which takes a lot of their time.
All right, since we know that, right, like as students get older, in older grades, the curriculum changes.
Yes.
But how do we accommodate the students that are falling behind, that don't have the skills? Like, what do we do with them?
For sure, all right, and that's really takes the resources from skilled and educated teachers. We do have interventions that can support with that. Interventionalists, we have, I know for ELA, we have scholars, we have teachers come in to push in with students or pull them out, and they do different type of IXL Lexia lessons that are geared to them, their specific diagnostic. That kind of boosts that little literacy gap a little bit, but it takes extra time. It has to start with a consistent basis, not only in school, but going back at home. If students are at a low literacy rate and they don't have that literacy rate or foundation practice at home, there's nothing that's going to levy that, right? And so I think it definitely takes a village to ensure that students are reading.
Okay, so my next question is this. You know how growing up, I'm an older guy, 90s baby. One of those things was called Hooked on Phonics. It was a tool that helps young scholars learn how to read.
Yep.
And for in the school system, do we have something of that nature to help us?
There are a bunch of resources that we have.
So
however,
can you give us just two? Give us two.
Yes. Well, I'm not a interventionist, and I've gone away with that. But I do remember one thing I used to do is phonics and Pinnell, phonics and Pinnell. I'm sorry. That was leveled reading, which was great. I know they have something going with the science of reading. There are other. Got me off the top of my tongue. But I know Hooked on Phonics was a throwback one. But there are a lot of resources out there. I think the only problem is that a lot of teachers are not trained in that, right? And so when teachers are not trained in that, they're not masters of that craft. It takes away from the actual curriculum of it. So we definitely need professional development where teachers are masters of those foundational skills, so they're able to best support their students.
Yes, and I also want to throw a little. As a special education teacher, I use a program called Aspire. Aspire works on foundational skills and sounding out and blending letters.
Yes.
So that's one program we can use, Aspire. How much does school funding and the resources available in predominantly Black schools contribute to the gap compared to schools in wealthier, wider districts?
That's great. It's funny because 2020, when we had our pandemic, a lot of the schools were given extra funding, especially Title I schools were given extra funding for the resources. So at least at a lot of predominantly Title I schools, they have the resources, they have the Chromebooks, they have the notebooks, pencils, they have the resources. However, students are not equipped to manage those things, right? And so, in a lot of those places, they have the resources. However, we are African-American students or marginalized scholars and families are not equipped with the overwhelming resources of it. And I think that sometimes they take advantage of it, right? And so it's interesting enough, when I was working at predominantly white schools, they are able to take those resources home and use things at home to best support them too. And I think a lot of times people assume that you're only doing that at school and you're not doing it at home, right? And so it goes back to my biggest theme here, right? It has to start at home, has to be a routine that parents are knowing too. And sometimes parents don't know. Again, parents don't know. They don't know what students are doing in school. And I think it takes that team effort to inform parents to inform teachers, to be a well-rounded person.
Yes, I want to piggyback onto what you said about teachers not knowing this. They may not have the skill. They're not interventionists, so
Yes,
they may not have the skill on teaching someone how to read is a total different skill in itself.
Definitely.
Right? And we have No Child Left Behind, our law, and how does social promotion by passing students who haven't mastered the skills play into this crisis that we have going on?
That's a great question. I wish I had the answer to that, but I know, with No Child Left Behind, I love the idea that students have the ability, but it definitely hinders students from succeeding if they don't have the background knowledge, the resources that to support them. I've seen students get passed along, and then now they're in, about to graduate middle school, but they're still on a second or third grade level. And so how does that help them as they transition to high school? And I think it takes a teacher, a dedicated teacher, a staff. It takes the family, if they have support at home, to support that student. But it definitely, I think the biggest crisis is, yes, students being passed along and not given the adequate resources to support them.
And I want to add on to that. I do believe that is No Child. Social promotions it may be the worst thing that happened to education.
But also, how do we help that, right? So if a student is not ready to go on to the next level, and so they're left in the grade below, right? And so what can we do? We have to make sure that we use extra intervention or resources to support that student and not just put them out to the wayside. So I definitely think it takes a great school, a great source of teachers to wrap around that family, that student, because if they don't get passed along, they're going to be pushed to the wayside, and then they're going to be left to suffer as well. So I definitely see both sides, but I definitely think passing students along who are at multiple grade levels below is definitely a hindrance to them, for sure.
No, absolutely. And I think with that, I think we need to change the way how we view education. Instead of just, the social promotion, I think what we should do is meet the child where they're at. Mm-hmm. What is their skill set? Yeah, what do they know or what do they do not know, right? And we need to cater a game plan to that individual.
For sure. Yeah, meet them where they are. I love that.
Yeah, that's why I think and instead of just doing the social promotion, I think we need to meet every individual student where they're at and build a curriculum that's catered to their needs, right? So, as teachers, we are hard in the classroom doing the work.
Yes.
Right? We're doing the work. What specific strategies or interventions have you used this school year?
For sure. I'm a firm believer in group rotations. Luckily we have smaller classroom sizes, so we're able to differentiate. We're able to cater to those students in our classroom setting. I know we have 4 different rotations. In one rotation, we focus on wit and wisdom or close reading, which is our main lesson of the day. And then we have some vocabulary because students need to succeed and write and read at a high vocabulary level. We have a technology station where students are using tools to close that gap for grammatical indeficiencies or comprehensions. And we also have a writing station. So I think it's very important to hit all those attributes. And honestly, as a teacher, it's kind of hard to do that in a full class period, right? Our class periods are 80 minutes. It's hard to really hit every single thing. So we're able to pinpoint and use my co-teacher, Mr. Fertil, to support in those things as well. And I think we have shown that to be a success. As we know, our school has been the #1 DC school in DC. A couple years ago, we are definitely seeing a lot of growth in our students. And I think it takes different strategies, different techniques, And as an educator, being a lifelong learner, maybe reaching out to those other teachers to see what best supports them.
And for our, we teach predominantly African American students. Yep. And how have you seen any improvement by using the group rotations, especially when that intervention rotation you spoke about?
Yeah, I think it's great because, again, you only have 4 to 5 students, and you're really able to cater to their specific needs, right? And so instead of having a group of 25 in a full class, you're not able to really pinpoint on scholars who are struggling. I'm able to pinpoint on those 4 to 5 students and really know what is going on, what can I use to push them, and then after 15, 20 minutes, all right, next rotation, I have another 4 to 5 students I'm able to really cater to, right? So it's more of that intimate understanding with students and using that time in a respectful manner, but also being consistent with it, right? Not just doing something one day and doing something completely different the next day, and having a routine and being consistent with your rotations, intervention, whatever it is helpful.
As educators, at times we do not like the curriculum, right? Mm-hmm. Difficult. And sometimes the reason why we do not like the curriculum is because it doesn't cater to the needs of our students. And as educators, we have to cater to our needs of our students. Have you ever received pushback? Have you ever pushed back on your school's curriculum or administration because you believed it was failing your students? And what happened?
Yeah, I think our administration is very understanding. They understand how well we teach, and they trust us. So if there's something in the curriculum that we feel as though can be pushed back or taken out of, I think they trust us in order to do so. And the curriculum we use at times, I think, doesn't cater to our students in some capacity. We can still pull from that. We can still use the ideas of questioning, the text that we use from that. But we want to make sure that, going back to your point, meet them where they are, finding ways to best support them. So our close reading, I think, is a phenomenal way to really dissect the text. However, even though our curriculum is rigorous, I definitely believe in high expectations. I think our students, yes, meet them where they are, but they still need to be pushed to high expectations and not lower our standards on them. But our work as far as the texts that they use, I think, are phenomenal. It is being able to differentiate it and best support those students who are high achievers and those who are struggling.
So, as educators, we're doing the work in the classroom. How can we support parents to mirror the same techniques that we use at home?
For sure. And I think it takes that beginning of the school year understanding, contacting parents. Obviously, we have a classroom. It's hard to contact every single parent all the time, but maybe having newsletters, having, bi-weekly or bi-monthly, check-ins so parents know what's going on. Using the syllabus that you're given at the beginning of the year or the middle of the year, so parents know where their student is, and more importantly, coming to parent conferences, and so they know what their students are doing.
So, as you're a parent of 2 lovely, dynamic kids, what are some of the stuff you do at home, to support your children's reading development?
Great. I read to my daughters every night. My youngest, I read to her every single night, and my oldest, they have a planned time. 30 minutes before bed, they're reading something. Right? They're reading a book that they're reading that they got from the library. It's not a book that we bought, but they're always reading at some capacity, or writing in their journal, something to jot down their notes. So they're doing something. I'm not hounding them about it, but it's a routine that we've set since they were younger. But something that's to their liking, right? I'm not going to force something that's they're not interested in. That's a good way to kind of get them to enjoy reading, just find something they like, but also having a routine for homework. They know to come home, they sit down, they do their homework for an hour, and then go on to the next thing. So there's a routine that we set in place that helps them.
As educators, we're called to act. If you could change one thing in the African American educational system tomorrow or immediately, start closing the literacy gap for Black students, what is it?
Yes, that's great. That's great.
I would say schools having systems in place to have a village of learners together, right? I would say in the beginning of the year, in the short, encouraging parents to be all in, having their input, having high expectations at home and having students read, journal, having students fall in love with academics and showing them, importantly, what is necessary in order to be successful. I think sometimes we lose track of why we are doing this, and they need to know, even at a young age, they need to know why we are doing this. But also find teachers who are excited for it as well. If they see that teachers are excited for it, they're going to be excited for it too.
All right, this is our last question because our lunch break, our planning period is almost over. As we wrap up, what would you say directly to a parent watching this video right now whose child is struggling to read?
Yeah. Contact their teachers, hire a tutor, help them at home if you're able to, check their work, and be consistent, be in their lives, focus on the why. Our students need you, right? And so we have a community here at school. Check in with the teacher, be all in, and good things will for sure happen.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Vertil, man. You are the man. Again, shout out to Mr. Vertil, one of the greatest co-teachers I have, man. He is always engaged, always ready to teach our students. So I'm very blessed to have him. So.
All right, so like I said, planning period. As teachers, we don't have that much time. Our planning period is over, and we gotta go pick up them babies. So the Challenge Educator out. Just make sure to like and subscribe, and also comment if you have any concerns or any support. Write your comments in the comment section. All right, take care.